Sorry, philosophy majors, we bought a supercomputer. Utah's higher education has no legal safety net, leaving campus funding wide open to political machinations. Over the last 3 weeks, we've taken a hard look at education here in Utah. We've looked at the admittedly somewhat dry buckets of money that fund K through 12 education, state income tax, your property tax bill, federal grants, and state trust land, and the political history of the education funding mandates and how that's changed with what's now the income tax fund. Today, we're headed up to campus to understand how Utah's colleges and universities are funded. K through 12 funding runs through a formula. Higher ed funding doesn't. Utah's public schools are funded through the minimum school program, built on the weighted pupil unit, the statutory formula that sets a minimum funding amount per student based on enrollment. The legislature can raise or lower the value of that formula, but the formula itself constrains what they can do year to year. Higher ed has no equivalent. Its funding is a straight annual appropriation, negotiated fresh every session with no formula guaranteeing a baseline, and that leaves it more exposed to whatever strings lawmakers want to attach. And right now, they are attaching them. Starting in 2023, the Utah legislature began dramatically remodeling the higher education system. They passed SB 146, which reorganized the state school board. It reduced the size of the Utah Board of Higher Education, put more control in the hands of the governor for appointments with final approval by the state senate, created a commissioner of USHE, Utah System of Higher Education, and altered the process for how university presidents operate. Most visibly, it mandated the board to review degree programs and resulted in a substantial overhaul of programs offered. In 2024, HB 261 was passed, which effectively eliminated all diversity, equity, and inclusion offices and officers. As Utah Tech University put it, quote, "To comply with the legislation, the Center for Inclusion and Belonging, including the LGBTQ+ Resource Center, will be dissolved. CIB staff, including the coordinator for LGBTQ+ students, the coordinator for Latinx DACA students, and the coordinator for Asian American Pacific Islander students will be reassigned to new roles in the Office of Student Engagement and Leadership and the Student Resource Center." Even more aggressive tactics began in 2025 to dramatically slash, reduce, and reorganize higher education to bring it more in line with the Republican leadership's vision for reshaping Utah in the mold of a more Trumpian era. Withholding approximately $60 million until universities and state schools conducted a review and eliminated all programs that were identified as low demand or low enrollment. At the University of Utah, quote, "University of Utah Board of Trustees members signed off on a list of just over 80 inactive courses, certificates, and degree programs that could be discontinued once the Utah System of Higher Education and Utah lawmakers sign off," end quote. These cuts were a direct result of the financial withholding from state leaders. Are our students better off for not being able to attain a chemistry teaching bachelor's of arts or a master's degree in computer science? Only time will tell. Which brings us to this year, and the part that should make you do a double take. The 2026 session didn't walk any of that back. It piled on top of it. More than $86 million in new ongoing money for the system, including a fresh $16.7 million in performance funding, plus one-time money, including $45 million for research, $15 million specifically for AI computing capacity, $4.5 million for outcome-based grants. Added up, and the through line is obvious. The same legislature that spent 2025 stripping humanities and low enrollment programs down to the studs spent 2026 handing new money to the exact fields those cuts were funding in the first place. This isn't a reversal. It's the same bet doubled. First, they moved existing dollars away from French and philosophy and into workforce fields. Then they layered new state dollars on top of the winners. The programs that got cut stay cut either way. Meanwhile, the one bucket the legislature doesn't touch keeps carrying more of the weight than it should have to. Federal grants and private philanthropy remain the place Utah higher ed is thriving without a legislative mandate attached. The University of Utah alone pulls in $782 million a year in federal research funding from NIH, NSF, DOE, and DOD, and decades of family philanthropy. The Huntsman's initial $100 million behind the Huntsman Cancer Institute, Sigma Chi's $62 million on top of it, the Eccles and Linder families, and others have underwritten what state appropriations never fully covered. These families have funded the world-class breakthroughs and innovation state leaders love to brag about. Lawmakers can micromanage the course catalog all day long, but when it comes to keeping Utah's universities on the map, private generosity and largesse is still doing the heavy lifting the state refuses to guarantee.